Tom Gray here. Made me a little transporter rack for transporting gas bottles or gas cylinders or gas tanks, whatever you want to call them. That'll work in the bed of my truck or in the trunk of my car, which is where I have it right here. It's just made out of some scrap office furniture that I found in the garbage. There's a dentist office near my house that was throwing away a bunch of office furniture. I think they were redecorating. So I grabbed some of it, and that's what I made this out of. I'll show you how I did it. Here's our materials. This is a shelf from a piece of office furniture. I found it in the trash. I don't really know what it was for. I just was with a bunch of other office furniture. So I'm going to use this as the base. And then the rest of the materials are just these scraps of 16 gauge that I've got just from a grill table I rebuilt, just other offcuts. This is 18 gauge, which is a bit thin, but we can beef it up. The thing I like about this is it's got these loopholes so I can thread my nylon strap through it, and it's got a lip all the way underneath so I could thread the nylon strap underneath, which is probably what I'm going to do. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this down. I'm going to narrow it. I'm going to cut all these perforations out and narrow it way down and cut two strips, weld them together, and make it about, 5.5 inches wide. So the two are now one. So you saw me cutting the pieces, taking the powder coat off, tacking it, welding it, and hammering it, hammering the welds. Slow process, but with flat thin sheet metal like this, you gotta take your time. Go an inch, hammer it out, let it cool. Go an inch, hammer it out, let it cool. If you don't, this stuff will just twist up like a pretzel. And you can see it's sitting on my weld table. It's nice and flat. It doesn't rock. So the next step is to make the little chocks for the tanks. So I'm gonna dig around in that collection of 16 gauge junk and see what I can come up with. So here's our prototype. Just a piece of maple with 4 chunks of plywood nailed onto it at 4 inches between here and 4 inches here. So if I hold those up on my welding tanks, there's a 1/2 inch in between the tanks, and there's gauge thickness, 16 gauge thickness between the top of the cross member and the bottom of the tank. So the tanks are resting on the chocks, which is what I want. They'll be nice and stable that way. So that's our recipe: 4 inches, 4 inches, 4 inches. So I marked 4 slots similar to these, so the strap can come out of this slot, over the tank, through that slot, out that slot, over to this gap slot, and over the other tank. So I can tighten 2 tanks down with the same strap. So I'm going to cut those out now. For the chocks, I've marked 4 lines, and I've cut 4 strips, roughly 3/4 of an inch wide. And I marked the end of them because I'm going to attach them and then fold the ends back so they self-gusset, and then weld them to the base. I'm using this rusty railroad spike just to clamp these things down, and then I'm going to tack them in place. Looking at the bottom, I'm going to weld in a little reinforcement between the strap slots just to keep it from bending. And here it is all tacked up. So what I'm going to try to do now is, it stayed pretty flat, so I'm pleased with that. So now I'm going to try to do finish welding. And I'm going to try to do it without distorting anything, so I'm going to do the compressed air deal. As the last bit of structure, these loops are a little bit flimsy since they're only 18 gauge. So I'm going to weld a hunk of wire along the edge. This is just a piece of wire I found in the trash. There it is, all welded. That's as welded as it's going to get. Some large column tacks if you want, but there's many of them. Now I'm just going to sand it, smooth everything out, grind some of the welds here and there, not too much. Ready for paint. Canyon Black will be the choice of color. Now for a test. Here she is all painted up. Hope you can see that in the glare from the sun. So I'm gonna lace up a ratchet strap, 1 inch wide nylon ratchet strap. And this is the trunk of my car. Could have picked a shorter ratchet strap, but I grabbed this one. Okay. And today we have a CO2 cylinder to get refilled. So I'm going to nest it between these 2 legs. Now this thing will fit just about any size cylinder that I have, but CO2 is all I need right now, so that's what she's getting. That's what we're going to the welding supply to get refilled or replaced. So I'm going to position it so the strap is just below the shoulder of the tank. I'm going to slide the strap around so the buckle is near the top, and then I'm just going to stick a shop rag under the buckle to keep it from rattling. Ready for down. And there we go. Nice and firm, doesn't rock, doesn't slide, doesn't roll. Get a little tighter. There we are. Okay. I'm gonna call this one a success. I'm gonna go get a new CO2 tank, and it's on to the next project, and I'll see you there and then.